Hi guys, so this time we have a new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from ICM. It's a 148 scale aircraft release, and well, it copies Mistel 1, so it's a, I would say, a combo set because we get two aircraft, so it's a BF-109 and this supporting base, which was based on the Junkers 88 as far as I remember. So we have a commercial sample here, and the kit number 48100 is the final shape, and you'll get exactly the same stuff as what you'll see in this video review. And first of all, I have to note that the box barely fits our, let's say, framing. So here you can see comparison with my hand, and the box art is really nice. It would be cool to have such poster on your wall. Also here on the side you will find some information about the original or real aircraft as a history note, and also we have the information about the kit. So it's written here that we have 251 parts and the wingspan will be 421 millimeters, which is quite large. And just to check, yeah, it is Junkers 88 below BF-109, but without the cockpit obviously. So here you can see the three marking options which are included here. Obviously we will check them a bit closer once we will open the assembly manual, because usually it is included there as a marking guide. And the packaging styling is, I would say, somewhat classic for ICM already. So we have these stickers from four sides, and it means that we have to cut through them. And it also means that if they are cut through when you get the kit, it means that somebody was opening this model before you, and it's a good idea to ask seller why it was opened, or maybe just to check the parts. And as for the Mistel 1, well, the real subject is quite interesting, because as far as I remember, this platform was used in order to enhance the overall reach of the German fighters, and it was also used as a bomb, flying bomb, so it was something what is quite unusual in its purpose. But I really recommend to check some reference materials so that you can learn the history behind this aircraft, because obviously we will not be doing here the history channel, but maybe sometime I will consider doing this, because it might be interesting to talk about the real aircraft histories as well. So the box packaging, as you can see, the top cover is color printed, flexible. It does not provide any protection for the parts. What is actually protecting the parts, I will show it in a second. It's a white cardboard box, and if I open it, there is, I would say, somewhat tight packaging, but still plenty of space, so parts should arrive to you intact without any serious damage in my opinion. And now I just need to open, well, we have several plastic bags actually, and that's why I need to open the one which was on the top. I think this one actually carries the new parts which will be necessary in order to modify the Junkers 88 for the version which you saw on the box art. So here we zoom into the first sprue, and here you can see the special struts. They will be used as a support for the BF-109. We also have some parts for the BF-109, and here you can check these parts from the opposite side. So I would say nothing unusual here, so it's just a matter of careful assembly. And also the landing gear wheels, as you can see, we have slightly different type which will be compatible with this landing gear covers. But of course nobody stops you from getting some aftermarket, which will look a bit more convincing. Next we continue with a bit bigger parts. So here we have this whole nose section. Note that it should be assembled out of two halves. Well, it's a shame that we have this tube, let's say, assembled out of two halves. You have to be careful while joining these things, but overall we have really nice details, external details here, and the same applies for this lower wing section. As you can see, it is slightly different from what is featured on the classic Junkers 88, especially if you saw the previous reviews of the various versions of Junkers 88 from ICM. Now I'm opening another plastic bag here. It's not difficult to guess that we get the parts for the BF-109, and the clear sprue here is packed into a separate plastic bag, so I will just open it. As for the BF109 kit itself, it's not exactly fresh release. So as you can see, clear parts, they look really good and they allow you to open the cockpit, but I'm not sure if we will have masks included, so we will check it in the assembly manual, I mean the mask templates. And returning back to the plastic, as I said, it's not exactly the newest release possible, so there will be its own quirks which you'll have to overcome, but well, it's what is fun about our hobby, right? So that's why I think it's also a thing to consider. So this model, I mean, because here we also get a nice option of open cowling, so maybe some modders will be happy to see it. And if I flip it over, you can notice that both fuselage halves, they are molded together with the tail fins, and we also get some minor guiding elements here, and also some of the cockpit features are pre-molded. But if you would like to see more, I think there is an aftermarket PE set available from Edward, which will help you to bring more features into the cockpit. I'm not sure if it will be visible on the finished build, because it will be quite a large model build, but still worth considering in my opinion. Next we continue with the sprue, which is dedicated to the mix of parts. So here you can see two types of the exhaust. For example, we have the engine parts, we have the cockpit floor, the instrument panel, also the propeller hub. And if I zoom in here, you can take a closer look at all of these elements. So they are molded nicely, and of course getting the engine in the standard package is really cool, at least in my opinion. I know that some modders actually complain about getting some interior parts because they would like to focus on the exterior. Well, nobody stops you from just ignoring the engine and assembling the closed coating, but in my opinion it will be a shame to not to use this opportunity on your BF109. Next we have the Sprue B, so this one is actually the last one for the BF109. We have here the wing parts, and ailerons are pre-molded, flaps are separate, which is quite interesting parts division, and we have the front slats separate as well. If I flip it over, we have some minor features for the wheel wells, and also we have the guiding elements. Well, the ailerons, they will serve as a guiding elements. So be sure to pay attention how these parts will fit. But well, if you take a closer look at the external features, you can see that this could be a bit more fine. So that's actually what shows or hints at the age of this kit. And now I'm checking another plastic bag. So here we have quite an interesting situation, because as you can see, we have all of the parts for Junkers 88, and I was not expecting the clear parts here, but they're still included into the package. So I'm going to open it and we will check all of this stuff together. Okay, if it will fit into the box, because it's a bit tricky to remove it here on my table. I have, well, small mess on my table, so that's why. And of course, if you hear this sound, it means I'm opening another clear sprue. So here we have the exactly what I was talking about. These are parts for the canopy, and as you remember, canopy on this version it's not used, so it's quite interesting how these parts will be employed. Maybe some of the rear parts or the top glassing will be used, but otherwise you get also really nice canopy parts for your scratch building, or maybe for some other Junkers 88 builds. Next we have here the gray plastic sprue with various external equipment. I think from here we will be using only the turrets, but we will see in the assembly manual, because who knows, maybe there won't be anything used, it's just the standard inclusion. Next we continue with the fuselage halves. So here I will have to zoom out a bit, and you can see that both fuselage halves, they're molded without the tail section, without the nose cone. And as you remember, we have to modify the nose area, so I wonder how it will be modified. Probably it will be cut somewhere here. And also this lower fuselage section is not used in the Mistel version, so you have to use the new one in order to replicate the proper let's say element on your aircraft. But again, external features look really great, and we also get some exterior and also interior parts. Here you can see it. Well, for this build it's not that important because we get the unmanned version. Next, we continue with the Sprue C, And here we have the engine gondolas, landing gear wheels, propellers, also some of the interior parts for the engine gondolas, and also tail wings here, rudder, which should be assembled out of two halves. Landing gear wheels, by the way, look really good. Note that the tail one is molded together with the leg, so you'll have to be careful when painting it. Maybe some masks will be necessary. And inside of those engine gondolas we have the guiding pins, but I'm not sure if this particular type will be used, because we get also one more type on the separate sprue, which we will see a bit later. First of all, I would like to show you this pair of frames. This is the Sprue E, and here we get engines for both gondolas. And I said it in the previous videos, I will repeat it again, because it's really cool to get both engines in the twin engine aircraft. I know that some brands try to include such feature as well, but they usually try to, let's say, skip or save a bit and include only one engine for one side. Obviously it's not the best solution, but what we get here is actually a really nice bonus from ICM, and you can also try to preserve or save one of the engines and use it for your future project as well. Nobody stops you from doing this. And next we continue with wing mechanization. Also we have some cockpit parts which are not necessary in this version of the aircraft. We have landing gear beads, and if I flip it over here, you can see that flaps are actually molded as a single piece parts. We have here only two attachment points, which is also cool, and they're not on the trailing edge, and that's also quite important feature of the design, in my opinion, because you won't have, or you cannot damage parts in the visible area. Next we have another type of the engine gondolas, as I said. We also get some new versions of the tail wing and rudder and the propellers as well. So I think that's exactly the ones which will be used in today's aircraft. And last but not the least is the sprue with wing parts. So each side of the wing should be assembled out of two hulls. It would be a wise idea to have some reinforcement in form of a metal rod, because otherwise you might end up with a wrong alignment of the wings. And as you remember, wing mechanization is separate, engine gondolas are separate. And if you flip it over here, we have the guiding pins, which is a must-have for such large parts, in my opinion. And note that the trailing edge is actually finished on one of the hulls, which is also quite a smart design solution, providing you with a bit more, I would say, convincing appearance of the aircraft model. Next we have the small insert, paper insert about the ICM paints. So these ones, I already mentioned them in some previous video reviews, as well as the builds where I actually used these paints, and they're really nice. They are great for painting with a brush and airbrush, so definitely something to check out. And next we also have a huge decal sheet. So here it is. We have all necessary symbols printed here. As you remember, 3 markings. And overall printing quality looks nice. There are some interior details for the BF109, but as I said before, if you would like to have something more sophisticated, you can go for the aftermarket PE from Edward. And next we have the assembly manual. So here we will have to zoom out a bit and maybe close the lenses. Okay, now you should be able to see that here we have the assembly manual with a short history note and technical specifications. Then we have the parts map, and as I said, those engine gondolas will not be used. They will be used from the smaller frame. And note that a lot of parts are actually staying untouched, so you might have a good addition for your spare parts box. And as for the assembly, I wonder what will be the first one to be assembled. So of course it's a Junkers, and as you can see, Junkers will have to modify it exactly the same way as what I mentioned in order to house this nose section. And note that you have also the assembly option to shorten this nose cone, and then it gets installed into the place. Some others will be happy because they won't be, let's say, made to paint the interior on this aircraft at least. So you just assemble and paint the exterior. And overall process is quite, I would say, well thought. As you remember, we have a lot of separate parts. We even have the engines. Again, I remind you about this, so it might be a good idea to expose one of the engines if you will be depicting the whole project as a part. And next we continue with propellers. So here we install the landing gear, and then we finally start working on the BF-109F4. So here everything starts with the cockpit, then we continue with an engine. And well, engine is quite detailed here, so it might be also worth adding some wiring, especially if you want to show these engines. And next we have the air intakes, propeller, landing gear. And landing gear, why we have the different one? Because it will be in the folded position, as you can see. And then we also should drill some holes, as far as you can see here. We also given the diameter, so mainly it's a 1.2, but there are also 108 and also no, it's actually the distance between those holes for the installation of those struts, which will be holding in place the aircraft. We also gave the masking template, which is really good, because BF-109 is a bit tricky to paint yourself, so this way you get the templates for precise masks. Here is the first marking from 1944, June. Next we continue with the summer 1944. Here is another one from autumn 1944. Oh, so we get separate markings for BF-109. As you can see, this one is again from June, this one is from summer, and this one is from autumn 1944. Obviously, you have to combine the marking option 3 for the BF-109 with the marking option 3 for Junkers 88. So this kit should be already available, and in my opinion, it's quite great combo set in a popular scale. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about such release. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye.